Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche, and this week Brian and I are going to show you a demonstration of how to install an owl box. You can use Cornell Lab of Ornithology's All About Birdhouses website to familiarize yourself with the particular species that you're trying to attract and learn about box placement, what habitat's most suitable, mounting locations, and the correct height. So are you going to pole mount? Is it best to mount to live trees, dead trees, or on structures? To understand the nesting period of the species. In general, most cavity nesting birds, you want those boxes up by mid to late March in the northern US and in February in our southern states. And think about box height and minimum spacing if you're putting multiple boxes up for a given species, the preferred direction, the dimensions, and other helpful tips that people have learned doing nest boxes for various bird species over the years. So when you go to do an owl house box install, we're showing this on eastern white pine tree today. You want to make sure you have the correct personal protective equipment. So things like safety glasses, gloves, loppers if you need to cut vegetation out of the way getting up to your installation point on the tree trunk, tool belts handy or pockets for getting things up and down the ladder. You'll want a drill with drill bits for pre-drilling and the screws that go with your mounting bracket. You may need some shims, and you want a helper to help spot the ladder, hand things up to you, that sort of thing for your safety. Big picture goal, you want to try to get that nesting box mounted as level on the tree as you can. You don't want it pitching too far forward, and you don't want it tilting back where rainwater could get into the entry hole. And I would suggest for really heavy owl boxes or trees with really thick, kind of flaky bark, that you might consider longer wood screws in those situations. Today we're going to use 1.25" wood screws that came with the Irva birdhouse mounting bracket that we're using. And I'm using that bracket so that I can get the house back down, clean it out, replace bedding in future years ahead of the nesting season. So it is, if you have a box up already, don't forget to clean it out, do something like a enzymatic spray cleaner, let it dry thoroughly, put in fresh bedding, and get it back up for spring nesting. If you want to learn more about that process, you can check out spring nesting box preparation in Mondays with Martha number 44. I talk about barred owls and their nest boxes in Monday with Martha number 30, and I just covered eastern screech owls last week in Monday with Martha number 93. All right, let's show you how to get this box up. Go.
So on this bracket, what I've done is I put it roughly where I want it, and I need to know the distance from the top of my bracket to the top of my house, and it's about 5 inches. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're hanging it on a tree, but it's about 5 inches, so when we go to put our bracket up, we know that's about where we got to be. All right, so I'm up in the tree. I held the box up here, kind of positioned it where I wanted it, and why I did that, I marked the top of where the box is, the top center. And then if you remember, that bracket's got to be about 5 inches from the top to where the top of the bracket is. So that's kind of marked right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the bracket in here and install the screws that are going to be mounted into the tree. So we put our bracket at the top of that mark, which you might be a little hard to see, but it's here. And what I do is I screwed the top screw in, and then I let the bracket hang, and that helps to make sure that it hangs kind of level versus trying to figure out how to get to level, because gravity will do its job here. And then I just screw both these in at the top, kind of where they would hang, and I leave them sticking out a little bit. We might have to adjust it once we get the house in here, but you can see how this is going to hang a little bit here. And so next what we'll do is we'll attach this bracket to the back of our owl house, and then we should be able to hang it up here. Okay, so we're going to install our mounting bracket. This is an Irva HB1 mounting bracket onto the back of our owl house. What I like to do to find the center of my house is I come in and I measure. It's 8.5 inches wide. So I've gone through and just marked a handful of spots here that are 4 1/4. So 4 1/4 is half of 8.5. So that lets me find the center of my house here. So I've got a few different marks here for when I mount my bracket. So what I want to make sure is my small part of this teardrop is up. That's how that's going to lock into place. And I want to make sure both my holes are kind of aligned on these green dots. That makes sure that it's actually going to end up being level. And I'm probably aiming to put this somewhere towards the center body of the house. It doesn't necessarily have to be perfect. You don't want to be up here because it'll rock a little bit, I think, where the base might kind of want to be propped against the tree. It might not sit as level on the tree. Same here. So if we kind of aim towards the center, this will put that box to be pretty level on the center. So what we'll do next, we're going to drill a couple pilot holes here first. You don't want to screw the screws straight into the cedar. You can crack or split it. So it's always good to drill a couple pilot holes first before you put your screws in. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I've drilled my pilot holes. I'm gonna put in our 2 screws. Thing to make sure is use the included screws. These come with the HB1 bracket. You get all the hardware you need to do this. If you use too long of screws, they'll poke through your house. So this is designed for 3/4 inch thick houses. So we're using 3/4 inch screws so they don't poke through. So this is all set with a nice bracket, and we'll go hang it on our tree. All right, we got our bracket on our house. Before we hang it, we're gonna put wood shavings in it. It's important to note that you wanna use wood shavings, not sawdust. The sawdust can suffocate the owlets. So these houses just have a little latch here. We've moved out of the way, we pick it up. Then we pour this in. We want 2 or 3 inches onto the bottom when it's all ready to go. So when this is stood up in the and gets ready to put in, we want a pretty good padding in there. I'm probably going to add just a little bit more in here to get us the amount that we want, and that'll give us a good bed for our owls. So we got it hung up here, and I just want to point this out. It feels just a little loose in here, and so what I'm going to do is go ahead and snug those screws up just a little bit. I thought this might be the case when I first hung it out, but I wanted to make sure that we had the box where we wanted it first. So we'll end up just kind of screwing those in just a little bit. Might be hard to see here, and then that'll give this a little bit better fit. All right, so one last little adjustment, since trees aren't perfectly square and never will be. To kind of get the box level, I wanted the roof level. The top was tipping down just a hair. So what I did is I did kind of ram a shim back in there just a little bit. So I just used a standard shim like this. It's not in there very far. Again, it's just because of the bark of the tree is making that a little off level. So kind of pop that back in there. It's in there snug. So that way the box sits perfectly level.
And here is our Eastern Screech Owl nest box, in this case mounted on an Eastern white pine tree. And you can see we have the bottom of the box snugged up to a branch, and that's so the owlets can crawl in and out of the box, be able to perch there, do their branching behavior before they're ready to fully fledge and make it safely back into the box. But we have that situated so that the branch is not blocking the adult owl's flight path into the entry hole. That's important to keep vegetation and physical branches out from the front of that. So I hope this how-to video helps inspire you to get an owl nest box up on your own property. Thanks and have a good week.